Hello, this is Morgan1 here. In this video I would like to start by saying I intend for this series of videos to become a sort of series in which I comprehensively debunk evidence put forth by Wim Winters, which he is using for proof in his double beat theory. This was the first video I came across when I had this mindset, so I will begin with this one. If there are specific videos you would like me to cover, I will happily do so if you leave them in the comments down below. Starting with this video, which he titled, "Who did Czerny target with his insane Tempi?" Right at the start of the video, Wim starts with his favourite claim that Czerny 299 is impossible. Almost immediately we get hit with the hasty generalisation of stating that because some metronome numbers are impossible, all metronome numbers are impossible, or at least the vast majority. This is because Wim makes the assumption that since he cannot play them at speed, they must be impossible. This is not an attack on Wim or his musicianship, but most likely an observation of his mindset, most likely. However, we know this not to be the case. Below I have linked Piano the Shavak's video where he does indeed play these etudes at the tempo indicated by Czerny, which should be an equivalent to a kick in the teeth, but I've yet to see an address from Wim himself on the video, which he does know about, as there are claims that it was sped up, which have been fueled by him, despite evidence to the contrary. Wim then goes on to mention Lang Lang and how he only achieved a speed of 92 BPM. Here we have another problem. He gives no evidence to this, no reference to what it should be, however. I will not doubt that this time, as those issues occur more disastrously in other videos. I will address it this time, however, if one pays attention in which he makes Lang Lang play, that Lang Lang is clearly not trying hard during the performance, given how he could come off the notes quite effortlessly at the beginning of the tops of the trills, and not trills, the flourishes at the top, which would be very, very difficult for someone to do at tempo, or if they were trying as hard as they could. His example of a sped up Czerny is difficult to imagine, but again, it's possible as linked with Piano the Shavak's video, so the argument that it is impossible is absurd. And secondly, on top of that, Czerny was known, even by his contemporaries, to be an incredibly fast performer. He was a speed freak. Kulak even mentioned that Czerny was unmusical at the tempo he demanded, which ironically, some of Wim's followers have a similar view when confronted with Piano the Shavak's video, saying that it's not musical at all, makes no musical sense, which ironically they're agreeing with Kulak if we take a single beat interpretation. Wim then shows an exercise from Czerny's daily practice routine, claiming it to be at 18 notes a second, while completely forgetting to mention that the etude is an exercise in glissandos, which is impossible at the slow tempi Wim demands. Note how he adjusts the different etudes to those speeds. He turns 299 at those speeds, not the actual etude. It's like trying to tell me how to cook a steak whilst you're cooking lamb. It doesn't make sense. It's the potential of the right idea applied to the wrong piece. And since it's a glissando etude, the speeds are high, since they are to slide across piano. Notably, Wim has not recorded a piece where glissando are indicated, in which he follows through with them in the case of Waldstein Sonata. And the second example Wim provides, he makes the claim without providing any evidence towards it. Again, it is another etude designed for utmost speed and movement, which although difficult, is possible and is demonstrated by a second video linked below. Wim then creates another straw man, which is where he changes the argument to make it easier to attack, attacking Lang Lang's Czerny, and he sped it up. The video he references, I will have to address at a later date, in which he specifically references another video he made. He references the recording of Lang Lang instead of an actual recording of the actual piece. And here I must take a moment to discuss the methodology of doing so. It's fine to claim that it is impossible at tempo, but you must prove so. With an edited version of that piece at the tempo you are claiming it to be impossible at, not the Opus 299, which is a completely different piece. He is again ignoring the effect of the fact that it is a glissando exercise and is clearly stated on the score. Even the score he shows up says that it is for glissando. The second example of the etude he describes and shows on the screen is an etude of contracted hand position. It's difficult, absolutely, but not necessarily impossible. For the third time, Wim posits a straw man, and he speeds up Lang Lang again. The book here that Wim is citing here is Czerny's School for the Virtuoso, some of those difficult etudes Czerny wrote. And again, according to Czerny's contemporaries, Czerny was incredibly quick and demanded very high speeds. When then begin talking about the active repeated notes. And as a reply to his demand that repeated notes were impossible for the pianos that Czerny would have played, I have my own copy of the History of the Piano from 1947, written by Paul Ehrlich. And from the Erard's double escapement action in 1822, which is the piano Czerny most likely would have composed for, considering that Czerny composed the virtuoso set in 1837. The final chapter details the evolved hammer mechanisms and states when the key is not completely released that the hammer is held by a check, in this way falling back from the string only a fraction of an inch, which permits a quick repetition of a note. If, on the contrary, the key is completely released, the hammer will fall back to its original position. This clearly shows and demonstrates that the mechanism of the piano enables a very quick repetition of the notes, provided the key is not completely released from when it is pressed down. And this is the latest entry in the book, and the only other entry after that is about upright piano action, and there is no later date than the one indicated. Wim then starts on his written sources about halfway through the video, and he starts with the quote, "The following pieces are especially tended to unfold this branch of performance, to augment and preserve it. The only condition is that after you have exercised them, you must play them every day prior to all others in the marked tempo, observing besides the other rules of nicety and elegancy." Now Wim goes on to say that the German specifies playing expressively, however from my own translation it does not. It translates to roughly, "With all other rules of the lecture followed, play through every day before all others," at best making a claim that it follows the expressive markings set out, of which there are very few in the piece regardless. But the statement says intended for those who have mastered the etude, not who are learning them. The first two, which Wim constantly posits are impossible, are marked almost exclusively at forte with sforzandos on the last chords, which are definitely possible to play with dynamic markings. Again, refer to the videos down below. With reference to the daily exercises, it proves nothing, as the example Wim cherry-picked, as again they were primarily for glissando techniques. The letter Wim reads is also invalid, since it neither supports practice of single beat or double beat. It only tells us that Czerny was a speed freak and that he preferred to study in very strict time. He also specifies Czerny clearly states that the metronome applies for most compositions. Wim completely passes over that, which make of that which you will. The next source Wim quotes has an issue with it, a massive issue that he does not address, and that is to do with rubato, which is a different issue for a different video. But specifically the quote Wim pulls out is referencing movement, which is more specifically listed as the Italian markings above which the description of tempo is. I do believe, however, it is fair to take Czerny as an odd one out, considering we have evidence that Beethoven employed rubato and Mozart did not keep a strict time, according to my book on the history of the piano, where it says that Mozart did not keep straight time and played with very staccato touch. The next source Wim cites is also non-argumentative, saying that just the metronome marks will be a reference for future generations, which indeed they are. And finally we get to what should be a massive kick in the teeth to a double beater. And Czerny writes, in the process of his piano method, "When, for example, such an indication is quarter note equals 112, we must slide the nut attached to the perpendicular rod till it exactly correlates with the number 112 on the triangular scale. Then, leaving the rod free to move, we must play every single crotchet exactly with the audible beats of the metronome." That was in reference to how the metronome should be used in correlation with practice, and that is without a doubt a single beat description. The only source for confusion, I believe, would be the word crotchet, which, as far as I'm aware, isn't common terminology, but in the UK it is. A crotchet is equal to a quarter note, with a semibreve being equal to a whole note, a minim being equal to a half note, a crotchet being a quarter note, and a quaver being an eighth. Wim proceeds to postulate on the plurality of the word beats, but it's delusional. If I were to tell you to clap along with my finger clicking, or my finger clicks, just clap along with my finger clicks, you wouldn't assume it was every other click. This is a single beat source, and it specifies, saying if it was 8 notes 112, each quaver would be of the same duration, or if it were a half note, each minim would be of the same duration. I genuinely do not understand Wim's explanation of how it's double beat. He proceeds to play a scale, and if it is supposed to demonstrate crotchet movement, which is what we are led to assume, it follows double beat, which isn't described in the source above. This is, I believe, is what leads to Wim's greatest flaw. As we shall look in other videos, he's looking for evidence to support his conclusion, not looking at the evidence objectively. Wim then puts some cards on the screen that make no sense, saying that since beats is plural, each tick must be worth half a beat, which doesn't make sense. It doesn't specify that anywhere in the statement. Wim then attempts to rewrite the statement to try and make it clearer in English. However, I personally am not sure, but I believe that if you were to translate it into German, it would be almost certainly similar, if not directly identical, with what was already written. The writing style of the time was generally more vague and more archaic. It would make sense that a single beat interpretation was what was correct there, since Wim postulates that it means beats as in every other tick indicates that, but it doesn't specify, otherwise it would say every other beat, or every second beat, or each 2 beats. If it were to use that terminology, that made no sense. If you have made it this far through the video, thank you very much for watching and sticking through, which is almost currently quite a long video. If you would like to see more videos like this, where I do debunk Wim Winters' videos, please let me know below if you have specific videos you would like me to debunk, or if you want more condensed versions of these videos, do let me know. Thank you very much for watching, and see you soon. Bye.